Bells are ringing, children singing, all is merry and bright. So hang your stockings and say your prayers, 'cause Daenerys is coming tonight. Oh shit, that's a bad thing now. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba-ba. Hello homies, welcome to Thumb Together TV. My name is Andrew Fantasia, and today we're going to be talking about Game of Thrones Season 8, Episode 5, The Bells Together. Whoo boy howdy, was this ever cray-cray. This was a absolutely intense, like, low blood pressure people, do not watch this episode. I'm just going to say it, do not watch this episode. Now, there's a lot to unpack, and if I go into too many details, this is going to be a 40-minute long episode. So I'm just going to do what I did after the long night. I am going to cover the big losses we have suffered character-wise after this battle. So once again, my friends, this is not a review, it's a eulogy. Let's get started. Because our homegirl Daenerys has kind of inched her way across the border between totally sane and apeshit, she is now just killing things willy-nilly, and because of that, our body count is through the roof. Here we go. We lost a lot of folks. Our big death of the episode, number one, first death, Varys. Lord Varys, the spider himself, the whisperer, the gossip master. I mean, if this was the modern day era, Lord Varys would be working at the National Enquirer. I don't think he'd be at the TMZ. He's classier than TMZ. But Daenerys just doesn't like the fact that Varys is running his mouth, blabbing to everybody about the fact that she's banging her nephew. She wants to stay with Jon Snow. She doesn't care that they're related. But other people are not so keen on the idea. Even Jon himself, you know, he's clearly attracted to Daenerys, as are we all. She's a beautiful mamacita. She's a smoking hot lady. But when she puts the moves on Jon in front of that fireplace and says, you know, screw it all, we should be together, Jon's like, I don't want to sleep with you anymore. We're related. That's not exactly what he said, but it was sort of close. And my Jon Snow is slowly getting better. Maybe by next week I'll finally be able to do a good impression of the name, but damn, it's taken me a long time. 8 years. So Daenerys doesn't like that. Varys is running his mouth, so what does she do? She does what she always does. She gets Drogon, and she's like, Dracarys. And Drogon burns him. And man, that was a bummer. I really liked Varys. He had a good head on his shoulders. He's one of the few people in Westeros to have a good head on his shoulders. And his last line of dialogue is so beautiful and so poignant and so true to him, where he says, you know, because he was plotting to get rid of her because she was not good. And he tells Tyrion, he says, I hope I deserve this. You know, I hope I was wrong. And I hope that Daenerys ends up being a good queen. But from the looks of things, he was absolutely right. And that's the bitterest pill to swallow. Oh, I'm going to miss you, Varys. But I'll tell you who I won't miss. Big death number 2, Euron Greyjoy. They finally killed this bastard. He's only been around for, I think, like 2 seasons, maybe 3 seasons. Like, he's a relatively new character. But man, what an asshole. I'm so glad we finally got to see the end of this dude. But even right to the bitter end, he's a prick. He's there fighting Jaime. This was a great battle. You know, these are 2 really good swordsmen, and they've established a rapport last season where they clearly don't like each other. They've both slept with Cersei, so there's that added element of, like, jealousy and, like, swagger and, you know, dick measuring, in essence. Jaime's known for being a very, very deft swordsman, but obviously he's at a bit of a disadvantage now because he lost his hand. So the 2 of them do their epic duel, and it gets bloody, and it's almost, you know, going one way, and then it goes the other, and Jaime drives a sword through Euron Greyjoy's stomach, and he is down for the count. And, man, like I said, bastard till the end. Like, last breath, he's just like, I'm the man who killed Jaime Lannister, and I'm like, please die now. Put your head down on the rock. Just go to sleep. Go to sleep and don't wake up. Big death number 3, Maester Qyburn. This was cool. I mean, Qyburn was just this slimy little, you know, weasel. He's like the classic vizier character who just kind of sits next to the throne and whispers in the monarch's ear. He just kind of popped out of nowhere in, like, I think season 5 or something like that. He just kind of showed up once Master Pycelle was taken out of the picture and sucking up to the queen and being like, oh, your majesty, I can make things in my lab of mad medieval science. I can make some green fire for you. I can do some other things. I can be very, very tricky. And he just always had the worst intentions for our characters. Every time he came on screen, like, he always was concocting something nasty, something that was going to give our heroes a hard time. So we grew to fear this man, even though he's just like an old man in like a simple black robe who's just kind of sitting around being like, yes, Your Grace. Whatever you say, Your Grace. We grew to fear him because we knew that every time he was on screen, he had something going on up here. He's the one who turned the mountain into a zombie. He's the one who saw a dying man and was like, well, actually, Your Grace, he's not quite dead yet, and I can possibly keep him suspended that way because I'm essentially Dr. Frankenstein. So to finally be rid of this man is a huge benefit for Westeros. The fact that Qyburn is gone, finally, and what a way to go, too. Like, the mountain just smashes his head into the wall, and that's it. Like, his head just breaks apart like a watermelon. I make a Dr. Frankenstein joke, but that fits it even more, because what happened to Dr. Frankenstein? Well, the guy made a monster, and he couldn't control it, and the monster killed his ass. There you go, baby. What happened to Qyburn? He made a monster, he tried to boss the monster around, and the monster's like, nope. Beautiful. What a sweet, subtle little allusion to that whole trope of like, be careful what you do. You play God, you mess with nature, nature's gonna mess back. Qyburn's death was my second favorite death of the episode. But my first favorite death, numbers 4 and 5, the Hound and the Mountain. I think it was episode 2 of the whole series. I think when we get to King's Landing for the first time, and Sansa is sitting watching a joust, and they're sort of, going through the stands, and you see everybody, and you get kind of like a who's who, and Peter Baelish is sitting next to her, and he's like, oh, that's Sir Ilan Payne, and oh, that's Sir Barristan Selmy, and blah, blah, blah. And we find out about the Hound and the Mountain, and there are these two very large men who are brothers who do not like each other all that much because they're big meanies. One of them's an even bigger meanie than the other one. And we have been building since that moment tension and rivalry between these two characters, but we've never really gotten the satisfaction of seeing them go head to head, go fist to fist. And we know when they do, it's going to be earth-shaking. It's going to blow the speakers out of our TV. And that's exactly what happened last night, baby. Finally, Sandor Clegane, in a very rare heroic moment, tells Arya to run, not worry about vengeance. He tells her, don't become like me. He, for the first time in his life, helps somebody and imparts some wisdom. He becomes a hero. And he's always been just this grouchy sourpuss who's, never really had anything nice to say to anyone. And the fact that he did that for Arya now was just so beautiful. And he essentially saves her life, because if Arya would have stayed in the Red Keep, that's it. She would have been done. So he saves Arya's life. He gets her out of there, and then he walks up those steps for his final showdown with his brother, Gregor Clegane, the mountain that rides. And the two of them just have the fight I have been waiting 9 years to see. It finally comes to fruition, and it did not disappoint. It was brutal. It was bloody. There were eyes gouged out. There were heads stabbed. There was so much going on. And in that beautiful final moment, the Hound finishes his arc full circle, where his brother once shoved him into a fire and burned his face. So the Hound finally returns that favor in kind, tackles the mountain through a wall, 200 feet down the cliff of the Red Keep into an inferno created by Daenerys and her dragon, and the two of them perish together in the flames. I have goosebumps on my arms right now, just talking about it. That was the highlight of the last several seasons for me. It really was. I'm so glad that fight was worth the wait. And because I have been expecting that fight since season 1, I think the Hound's death, more than any other death we've gotten this season, has made me the most emotional, because it's like, oh man, 9 years ago I was introduced to this dude and I knew he was going to fight his brother, and now it happened and it's over, and he's gone. Like, that hit me in the feels, man. I'm going to miss you, Sandor Clegane, I really am. Finally, big deaths, number 6 and number 7, Cersei and Jaime Lannister. Everybody sort of got the idea in their heads that these two would either finish one another off or die together, and that's exactly what happened. They huddle down underneath the Red Keep, and the Red Keep just crumbles around them, and that's the end of them. And it is very fitting. The Red Keep has been their home for the entirety of the show. especially Cersei. You know, like Jaime runs around and he does battles and conquests and things like that. But Cersei, except for the first episode ever where she visits Winterfell, I don't think we ever see her leave King's Landing even once. Maybe I'm wrong, but she just, like, she stays in that castle and she holds herself up in there and that's it. Like, that has always been her territory. So the fact that her death comes with that castle crumbling down on top of her head, that really, really fits. And especially because her whole thing was she would not give up the throne. Well, guess what? That room her and Jaime were under, hiding in, that's right underneath the throne. The throne is probably one of the pieces of debris that crushed them. I kind of wish we got to see that, like maybe it falls and then one of the pointy parts of the sword like sticks in them or something. But, they didn't want to make it too violent. I kind of wish it was a little bit more violent because as far as I'm concerned, Cersei is a not nice person whatsoever. And it would have been nice for her death to be a little bit more painful, but whatever. I takes what I can get. So we lost 7 big characters that we know of in this battle. What a way to leave us hanging for the final episode, right? What a way to do it. And now it's just like, well, Daenerys is clearly a threat. What are we going to do? Now, I've not done this before yet on this show, but since there's only 1 episode left, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go all in, put my chips on the table here. I'm going to give you my prediction for what I would love to see and what I think we might see in the final episode of Game of Thrones. Here we go. So the whole episode, obviously it's going to be another big long one. I believe that the remaining heroes, the ones who are, not super loyal to Daenerys, so we got Jon Snow, we got Tyrion, we got Arya, maybe Brienne and the others come down, because they're still all up there with Sam and Sansa and everybody. They band together and they go to try and take down Daenerys Targaryen because she is now crazy. She's the Mad Queen. They got to stop her. And the whole episode is about trying to get to her. But of course, she has Drogon. She has the Unsullied and the Dothraki Screamers, and maybe the Northmen too, because the Northmen prove that they are not the nicest folks either. And she has Grey Worm. So she's not alone. So I think it's going to come down to these 2 core groups clashing. And Jon and Tyrion and all the heroes are going to try to take her down so that she doesn't hurt any more innocent people. But here's where the twist comes in. I think Daenerys is going to win. I think she's going to kill them all. Or at least, drive them off, kill most of them. She is going to win the fight. She is going to be the queen and sit on the Iron Throne. And her and Drogon and her posse, they're going to rule Westeros in a reign of fear. And in the final scene, a place, tucked away in the forest somewhere, like that little tavern where Hot Pie works. It's just in the middle of the woods, just hanging out there. We'll see like a group of people meeting in this tavern. And we don't recognize any of these people. And they're discussing the genesis of a rebellion. And we're like, oh, what's this rebellion? What's going on there? And they say, we are finally going to change things. We're going to make Westeros a better place. And they say, she's going to lead us. And the camera pans over, and we see a middle-aged woman with dark hair. She's got a sword. I don't know, she's all decked out for battle. And we don't know who this woman is, but she looks kind of familiar. Like, who's this lady? And one of the people around this table says, will you lead us, Lady Arya Stark? And the woman says, yes, I will. And it turns out we just had this big time jump, like maybe 40 years later. So Arya Stark is like a middle-aged woman now, but she's still rocking a sword. She's still a warrior to the end. Maybe she's got Nymeria with her, and she's leading this group of rebels. They plan and they vow and they say, we are going to storm the capital, and we're going to take down the Dark Lord Daenerys Targaryen once and for all. Cut to whatever is left of King's Landing, this dark, creepy, smog-infested land like Mordor, and Daenerys is an old woman, and she's like witch-like and scary, and she's still oozing power, though, and she's got Drogon with her, and she's sitting on her throne, but she's still, she's still ready and bloodthirsty. She's like her grandfather, the Mad King, and she's sitting there, and she's like, let them come. And that's how we end the show. To me, it's like we have been watching the origin story of a Dark Lord. We have been watching like the origin story of Sauron, except in this case it's Daenerys Stormborn of House Targaryen, Queen of the Andals, the Rhoynar, and the First Men, Breaker of Chains, Mother of Dragons, Ruler of 7 Kingdoms, and Protector of the Realm, etc., etc. She is the true enemy. She is the Dark Lord. She is the tyrant that plunges Westeros into a generation of darkness. And a small group of rebels is going to try, even though we don't see the result of it, they're going to try to finally strike her down. That's what I want to see, baby. That's where my prediction's going. Lock it in, and we'll see what happens. We have one episode to go. I'll see you here next week, folks. My name is Andrew Fantasia. Until then, adios.